Our fight, our future. Okay, good. Very okay, she said. That was good. I was like my GPA. I am obsessed with the theme for this, our 20th anniversary. And I just love that our staff picked it up. I want to take about 10 minutes, if I can, to talk through what we're going to do this week, why we're here, how we got here. But I want to start right there with our staff. This does not happen on accident. This, I think, is my favorite week of the year. I think this organization and network is the best kept secret in good governance. It is for 20 years been an invisible spine that has held us together through very hard times. And that's only possible because of people like Raquel Jones, our vice president, who runs all our leadership programs. Yeah, if you knew, for those of you who don't know, I was a YEO myself, 15 years in the network, first on the city council in Ithaca and as a junior at Cornell, then for 10 years as mayor of the city of Ithaca. So I knew what I was like, but until I crossed over to this side, I didn't know what we were like. We are difficult, all right? You are all, I know you're thinking, I'm only mildly difficult, but collectively, there's like an aggregate effect that happens. You're very difficult. Raquel makes it look easy. And for a decade, starting from intern and now working all the way up to vice president, she has led a team that executes and supports this network and fights for it and defends it, both inside the organization and without. And she works with a bunch of other people too, who I don't have time to mention in detail. But from Marcus Batchelor to Peter Montgomery to Josh San Miguel, Gayrod Townsend, yes, Fritz. Don't clap. He's a rookie. Don't. No. We can't. No, please. It'll go to his head. He's 23. You can't guess him. Alana Bird, our national field director, is here. We also have Zach Van Houten, Rob Santiago. Yeah, I think they're all out at the, there he is. Miranda is here. Casey is here. An entire team that, frankly, that table in the back, by the way, that table in the back, how's the hotel? It's good? Everything's nice? The accommodation's good? That table in the back spends all year raising money for this. All year. Going to individuals and institutions and major donors. So when they come up to you, yes, this week and put a camera in your face and say something nice about the YEO network, please do. Because it helps us out tremendously. Jack is here too, our director of institutional giving. Oh my God, Rocky's here. Rocky's our one-man IT department. Everything works because Rocky works. Rocky Samuel, incredible. Well, I was saving that. Oh, Lana. Okay, so this network means a lot to me. Some of you have heard this before, so just bear with me. I got in office, I think like a lot of you did, because there was something specific I wanted to do. There's something very specific I wanted to do. I was raised in homelessness and in a shelter, and so I wanted to end homelessness. And I ran at 20 and got very frustrated by being on the losing side of a lot of 9-to-1 votes. And when I was 22, a friend finally convinced me to come. I skipped YEO for the first 2 years. A friend finally convinced me to come. And at that point, I had decided to give up public office and do what all desperate and lonely people do, just go to law school. And I said that in the Blue Dot luncheon. Raise your hand if you're a Blue Dot, by the way. Blue Dots are first-year attendees, yes. Let's make sure we welcome them, show them the ropes. And I came to this place in my Blue Dot luncheon, and I said out loud, I said, I'm not enjoying public office. Nobody is supportive. Everybody thinks I'm a lunatic in these meetings. And so I'm out. And two men, Evan Lowe from California and Andrew Gillum from Florida, the founding director of the Young Elected Officials Network, dragged me into a corner and bullied me into not only staying in public office, but saying, whatever barriers are stopping you from what you need to do, you need to knock those down. And they promised, and they were good to their promise, that anytime I called, they would take care of me. So when I decided to run for mayor, they helped. And when we built more homeless housing, more shelter housing, more affordable housing in my 10 years as mayor than in the 60 years previous combined in the city of Ithaca, it was because of their support. But I left office to come and lead this organization, People for the American Way. Founded in 1980 to beat back authoritarianism, to defend freedom and liberty. It was a hard choice to make. You know, I started to, it's 10 years. I started thinking my first name was mayor. It became very important to me to be the mayor. And some of you have asked, like, what's it like on the other side? And I'm here to tell you, it's fucking awesome. It's great. They pay me way more. I sleep all the time. Spend time with my family. I get to work out. It's great. But I don't. I can see you, Mandela. I can see you. I can't catch you, but I can see you. But I miss it. But here's why you are all very important to me. We're at a very dangerous place right now. We're at a very dangerous place. I think the entire country is dramatically underreacting to where we are. This is not the beginning of the end. This is like chapter 8 or 9 in a 10-chapter story. When Norman and the organization called me, I was comfortably in my 4th term in office. He called after January 6th and said, "Are you comfortable up there in Ithaca?" I said, "Yeah, I'm very comfortable." And they're like, "Stop being comfortable." There's a fight underway. So when the staff named this convening our 20th, not a celebration, not a party, but a fight. Have you ever been in a fight? Like a physical fight? Okay. Yeah? So yeah, you said don't stop singing. Okay, so some of you have been in a fight. Okay. I've been in 3, all right? I'm 0-3. I'm 0-3. I'm 8-0 in elections, 0-3 in physical fights, right? Those of you who've been in a fight know that it happens fast, and it is confusing, and it is messy, and it is scary. It is scary. And some of you are in fights right now with your city councils, with your state legislatures. You're in fights over weird arbitrary rules or basic human civil rights. You are in fights right now. And I will tell you, it is true on the playground, it is true in the jungle, and it is true in democracy. Every fight is easier together. When you can look to your left and to your right and realize you are not alone, when you can coordinate with each other. Not only your chances of victory, but the chances that you take a chance dramatically increase. And I'm telling you, where I sit now in this organization, I feel like a spider on a web. I see each of you, Liz Bennett and Ashley in Iowa, I see each of you, what you are doing every day in Iowa, outnumbered in that state legislature and in that city, what Spencer Thibodeau does in Maine, right? What Mandela in Wisconsin, Kevin Killer with all the sovereign nations. right? With Congressman Horsford, now head of the Congressional Black Caucus. Mayor Brandon Scott, in his second term in Baltimore, brought his homicide rate, I don't know if you know this, last month, the lowest homicide rate in 10 years? No, 20 years? No, 30 years? No, in the history of Baltimore. That's Mayor Brandon Scott. Austin, Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. What David Crowley did in Milwaukee last week to stand up against fascist, authoritarian, creepy, terrifying behavior, to have the FBI arrest a judge in public. What David Crowley to stand up for his constituents in our whole country makes me feel like we can win this fight. And so this week is very important to me. It's very special to me because it is the week in which you all get to see each other. I know you're very busy. I know it. You're in your own fights, and you can feel like you are in your own fights. But the truth always outs this week, which is that there's only really truly one fight, and we are all in it together. And they want to make you feel alone. They want to make you feel lonely, but you are not alone. And you are not lonely, and you are powerful. They fear you, and they should. They should. They don't attack you because it's easy. They attack you because they fear you. And what we do here, what we've built here, is a network that's intended to help you in every possible way. So there's going to be a lot of learning. We're going to have a lot of panels, symposiums. That's my jam. Nice symposium. We're going to have policy academies and briefings, talks, including a couple tonight, and then we have some awards to give out. If you are a blue dot, you may not know the rules here, but the rules here are, the point of being young is that you can stay up late and wake up early. So we do stay up late, but we always show up on time in the morning. And tomorrow, we do our best. I can see you. You know, I'm worried that you don't think I can see you. So 9 a.m. tomorrow, we have a great keynote. You got to be there. 9's reasonable, right? It's humane. It's still a young elected official. We know. Anyway. And because this is our 20th anniversary, we're going to be spending slightly more, and I hope you'll indulge those of us who are Y-ish EOs, right? As I'm getting closer to 40 than to 30, that we are welcoming back, including tonight, more than usual number of alumni and mentors. Because the truth is that what makes this network special, what makes this organization special, why for me it popped more, it meant more, it mattered more, it worked more than the mayor's conference and every other, not to throw shade on whatever, but all those were corporate sponsored or ideologically driven. YEO is the only one that's FUBU, for us, by us. From the beginning, the whole point is to support us, right? We're not driving any particular agenda. We want to figure out what you need and help you get it. That, I learned in time, was not possible alone. Like, I kind of thought when I first came here, I'm like, what a great thing Andrew and the other kids created. And they did. They did. Andrew Gillum, for more ways than I can name, I owe my life to. One of the most incredible men and leaders you'll ever meet. But without, at the time, People for the American Way's National Field Director, Mary Jean Phillips, this organization would have never gotten off the ground. Mary Jean Phillips is here with us tonight, and I want to recognize her for the amazing work. She's sitting next to Peter Montgomery. Yeah. What's that? Collins. I said Phillips. You don't mind marrying a Phillips, do you? Mary Jean Collins. Mary Jean Collins. I also want to recognize one of the past presidents of People for the American Way who always supported this network, even in its infancy, who's here with us tonight, Ralph Meese, as well. And the head and heart of our organization in so many ways. The words of our organization, so many speeches and letters and pamphlets, the thoughts, the intention, are represented here by our Executive Vice President, Marge Baker, and a Senior Public Editor, Peter Montgomery. These two, again, a steadfast support of an organization like us is why you make it to 20 years. So many, I'm sure you've all been to parties led by charismatic young folks. It happens for 2 years or 3 years, they move on, the organization goes under. It hasn't happened yet. That's for that reason. There's too many of you to name by name. Too many of you that I love, like Congressman Asifa Simon. Let's go, Congressman. Can you believe it? I can. She should be senator. And Mayor Melvin Carter, who, yes, is a hard act to follow, I got to tell you. When once you put him in front of a piano and then everybody else looks at the other mayors and go, can you do that? I'm like, nope. And some of you I don't care for much, like Josh Maxwell, are also here. Josh, of course, my first friend and roommate at the Young Elected Officials Network. We will all get a chance, thankfully, to learn from each other and to spend a lot more time together. We do have the awards tonight. Looking forward to finding out who won. Raquel doesn't tell me because she doesn't trust me to not tell all of you. But first, we do have two very special panels, just quick fireside conversations that I'd like to get to. The first, and again, this is what I think is very unique about our organization and that I want to lift up and praise and respect. When Norman and the board asked me to take over, they knew that I would be the first president that was younger than the organization. But they didn't just ask me, they asked Kevin Killer to join the board. Now a member and the future chair of the C3 Board of People for the American Way, right? A YEO alum, first time ever. They asked David Bowen from Wisconsin to join the board of directors. They are seriously invested in our future. And in no way is that more true than the moderator of our fireside chat. Somebody who is an original member of YP4, which if you have time after this, I could break down for you how they actually were the progenitor of YEO. YEO grew out of YP4. Yeah, yes. And Renee Spellman is now on the board of directors at People for the American Way. She is an incredible, you probably know her from a national spokespeople at several presidential campaigns at this point, and just being a general all-around badass. She's agreed to interview three extremely cool people. The Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, our brother Austin Davis, the Mayor of the great state of Baltimore, Charm City, Mayor Scott, and my best favorite person in the world, Latifah Simon, the Congresswoman from Oakland, California. Please welcome on stage. We'll do fireside chats and then continue on with dinner.
We're going to set the stage up. Hey guys, we're just going to take a little break and just move this stuff around. So give us a second.
do serve on the board of People for the American Way. Thank you, and everybody, welcome to our future, our fight. And I think what many of us have realized is our family. It has just been an incredible reunion, seeing people again. I've had the opportunity to see some of my former staff and colleagues who are also alumni of the network in many different ways, from Jane Kim, now running the California Working Families Party. Kevin Latta, now running Leaders We Deserve. And many others in this room. It is so great to see you all. But I think what we've realized is that tonight is not just a celebration of 20 years, but actually a commitment. And for those of you that actually helped us to be here through funding and your donations, your support of this network, thank you very much. Let's give them a round of applause for their commitment. But I think it's also about how we are committing to cast a vision for the future. We're committing to each other, and we're creating the change that we want to see. So in a second, I'm going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, so you can prepare. You heard Savante tell a little bit about his why, and we're going to hear about theirs. But I will tell you a quick story, which is that 21 years ago, I sat in the same place as you all, listening to panels at a summit put on by People for the American Way. It was my first year in the leadership cohort of Young People For, the sister network to Young Elected Officials Network. We were not elected. We had no aspirations to be elected, although it is absolutely incredible that many of our alumni, like Kevin Killer, who came right after us, who also serves on the board, was not just elected president of his tribe, but then also to his state senate. And Vince Evans, who also sits here, who came a little bit after me and Kevin and Young People For, who chose not to be elected himself, but to work with elected officials at the White House and as executive director of the Congressional Black Caucus. So thank you to all the Young People For alums that are here. When I joined, I was a college student. I started off actually interning for People for the American Way, and then became a Young People For fellow my freshman year of college. I left school in California, came to DC for this network, and it was the first time that I heard the values that I grew up with spoken out loud. I was a first generation activist and advocate in my own family, although others had sort of adopted me and shown me the way. But it was this network that gave me the language as well as the training to become a leader. And so what I'm going to ask you all as you introduce yourself is, what is your why? Like, what was the why for finding your voice in politics and leadership? And what was your why for becoming a YEO?
Well, first, thank you so much. And are there any YEOs in the house? I'm Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis from the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. My why is very simple, and it's been the thing that I've worked on throughout my entire career. I got involved in public service after an incident of gun violence in my neighborhood. Somebody got shot on the block that I lived with my family, and it really shattered that foundation of safety and security for me. And when I was 16 years old, I started a youth advisory council to take on gun violence in my community. Thank you, clap for that. When I got my first job in county government as a staffer for an elected official, I created the first Office of Violence Prevention in the county health department to look at gun violence from a public health perspective. As a state representative, I created the first gun violence reduction initiative with a number of my colleagues in the Legislative Black Caucus. We seeded that with a $5 million grant, and today it's now the Violence Intervention and Prevention Grant Program, and it's over $50 million, having an impact in our communities. And now as Lieutenant Governor, I chair the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency that doles out those resources. So that is my why, and the thing that continues to drive me is to make our communities safer and to eradicate gun violence in our communities.
Oh my God, I'm back with my people. I am so excited. I'm a little old, before I became a grandmother. Like legit, there. I mean, it's part of my why. So I was a teen mom, and my baby is 28. She's like YEO age, which is crazy. And she, God, I just yesterday, Congressman Horsford, we've been in markups all week. These, first of all, I just want to say YEO is literally right now my why. I know that y'all are coming. You're coming to the Capitol not just to be on panels, but you're coming to take over the Congress. Please hurry. Please hurry. But in my markup yesterday, it's every day I'm realizing why the why is so right. We were in a markup in oversight, and these evil folks, are pushing forth a reconciliation process that is going to sink our people. And so I got an amendment opportunity to introduce an amendment, and literally, I lost it, and I said I had to put groceries back. When I was on SNAP, I got about $23 a month with my child working 2 jobs and going to college. And I started an organization, helped to start an organization called the Young Women's Freedom Center for girls like me who had been in the juvenile justice system, who had addicted parents, who were literally casualties of the drug war. Started that organization at 19 with a baby on my hip, going literally an hour on the bus to pick up those food stamps before they were in a little card. They were still stamps. Yeah. And being humiliated every single time that I had to go to feed my child, begging and on lists for Head Start, right? 14 years later, Kamala Harris, by the way, introduced me to my husband, married us, and she also eulogized Kevin. He passed away from cancer, and we were bankrupt at the end. My eldest daughter and our little girl, Layla, we were picking up the pieces. He died on Father's Day of 2014. We have so many whys. We have seen how government has refused to work with us. And even in my organizing, working in prisons, working in jails, working on the streets, door knocking, hustling for candidates, I was always looking for someone who was going to throw every single ounce of their soul and their faith and their patriotism on the line for little girls like mine. But they wasn't coming. So what was I gonna do? When Barbara Lee called me and was like, I'm running for the United States Senate, I was like, sis, professor. She was my professor. She knew when I brought my little baby to class at Mills College, was always on academic probation because I was always working and organizing. She said, I think you need to think about this thing. So I became a YEO about 8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I was too old, but I said, Savante, please. Because I need this space. I need this space, one, because I'm not like them. I didn't go to school in 4 years. I don't have a big list. I got hella debt. In fact, it was a couple years after Kevin died, and I was bankrupt, like literally bankrupt, like couldn't get a $7 credit card. I heard that, damn. Yeah, it was like, damn, you cannot fight cancer on a budget. This place is so, this thing, Young Elected Officials Network, is the most special organization that I've been a part of, because we get to lay down our burdens and figure out how to be family as we fight Goliath. My why is because no one is coming to save us. No one is coming to save us. There is no Superman, no Superwoman. God gave us everything that we need and that we possess currently to lead our people north. Not right, not left. It is the absolute truth. And so the beauty of being now the 61st Black woman to ever wear this pin out of 11,000 members of the United States Congress means that I have 800,000 bosses in my district who need me to lay everything that I have, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the laughter, my grandmother's prayers, every day when I get into that office. Come early, leave late. That's who we are, YEO.
Somebody say amen. Amen. Say it again. Amen. Close the doors. She's talking now. Close the doors.
My friend.
I had to, because it's true. It's true. I am Mayor Brandon Scott of the great city of Baltimore. and I am honored to be back at YEO as a gray dot. That's something we just came up with. We're gray dots. We're gray dots. Melvin, you're a gray dot too. Don't look down. You're a gray dot. But my why is similar to the lieutenant governor's. I knew that I wanted to be the mayor of Baltimore when I was 6 years old, because shortly there before, I was just simply outside playing basketball and someone started shooting. It's the first, not the last, time that I saw someone get shot. And I remember just being literally the distances between me and that door to my house, but not being able to get there and just having to like hide in these bushes until the shots stopped. And then after, the next day, I was just supposed to go to school like nothing happened. There was no such thing as like trauma informed anything. It was a whole bunch of, boy, you're gonna be all right, right? But also, no one seemed to care about what happened in my neighborhood. It took my dad to make me and my brothers to say, well, they ain't coming to clean it up. Y'all go outside and clean the blood up. And when you live in a place like that, right? And I grew up in a neighborhood in Baltimore called Park Heights, which the whole world will descend on in 2 weeks for a horse race called Preakness. So imagine living in a neighborhood that is the center of the sports world for one Saturday in May, the third Saturday in May every year, and every other day you're not even treated as human. That they had to make a decision. And I pestered my parents, my older cousins, my uncles, my grandparents, because I was the kid that had to stay with everybody depending on when my parents were working. And one day at home, my mother just said, what you just said, man, Congresswoman, no one's coming to save us. No one's coming to save Park Heights. If you want it to change, you're going to have to do it yourself. So I set myself out on that mission at the right old age of 6 years old, and started. Jane and I were just talking about this. This is my 18th year in City Hall. I thought you all were going to cry for me on that. But I started out as a staffer, as an intern. I was elected to the city council and became a member of YEO in 2011, simply because I got an email after I got elected, and everyone looked like me. When I was elected, I was the first 20-something elected on the city council in Baltimore in over 20 years, right? So it was literally just me. And imagine having to talk to your colleagues who I used to write their legislation for. I had to explain to them how to work like they were going from BlackBerry to Samsung, like that. So we can't have real policy conversations because we're just not the same. And YEO became an important part for me because of the relationships, right? The friendships, the family that we are, but also the great things that have happened in this country because of YEO. Those conversations, not just the panels, those conversations. Sorry, Melvin, I'm going to tell some secrets here. It wasn't by happenstance that Melvin did an equity bill. I did one. Wes did one. We talked about that at YEO, right? And that's what this means. This is a place that and this is an organization that will help us do what's needed to be done right now. And the most important thing that any of us can do right now is fight.
Mayor, I loved what you talked about, and that your first YEO, the people looked like you, black, brown, every color, every gender. There's so much diversity within this network. And I think what we just heard, the passion, the commitment, the fight within everybody comes from a deep connection to their culture and their community. So I just want to talk about culture for a quick second. Part of what brought me to People for the American Way, I think was baked into the founding of this program by its founders, both here and no longer with us. So Norman Lear's shows helped to invite people that looked like us up here into people's living rooms for the first time. And then it's no coincidence that shows like Will and Grace preceded legalizing gay marriage. So how is culture showing up in your work today? And what are your recommendations for harnessing the culture in an authentic way that moves all of us forward?
I guess I'll start. I always tell people, and I say this to young electeds and anybody that's ever asked me about running for office, be you, because that's all you can be. Right? So I don't, you won't ever see me in hard bottom shoes ever again. Right? I wear tennis shoes every day with every suit that I have. I obviously wear my hair a little differently than I did on that picture. I did look good back then. I think I look better now. But when you bring your authenticness of your culture, of who you are, your people, the people that you represent, the family, the upbringing, the city, to your elected office, and then to the rest of the world, that's how the world changes. I tell the young people in Baltimore all the time. They were like, "Well, why did you decide to, especially right after my election, to keep my hair very long, very long?" And I said, "For you." And a young man asked me, "What do you mean?" I said, "Because if I do it now, and I do my best, and I'm the best mayor that I can be, no one can ever come behind me and say that that's not what a mayor looks like. That's not what a mayor wears. That's not what a mayor talks like, right?" And I think that we have to show up, because also you have to be authentic. This is, no one wants this stale copy and paste like Chat GPT. What should an elected official sound like? They don't want that. They want true authenticity. They want folks that can talk the language of the people that they represent, that dress like the people that they represent, that has went through the struggles and trials like the people that they represent. So when you bring your true authentic self to your leadership, it's only going to make the people that you represent fall in love with you more, right? Because I say this all the time. There are people in Baltimore, especially Black women, especially the aunties, who can't tell you one single solitary policy that I've ever did, but they can tell you where I went to high school. They can tell you what my kids' names are, and they can tell you, did y'all see Brandon telling jokes on TV last night? But they know I show up for them and that I'm always going to be there. But more importantly, as they say to me all the time, I'm just like them. I think that's so important, especially right now when being Black, being brown, being a member of the LGBTQ plus community, being anything other than a old, wealthy, straight white man is being frowned upon. We all have to be even louder. So right now, I'm blacker than I ever was, just to annoy them.
Um, yeah, no,
And before you go, Lieutenant Governor, I just want to say, just as a preface, culture shows up many different ways in your state, but even within the ticket that you ran on. And so can you talk about the diversity of culture that you're now representing and
yeah,
showing up for?
Well, I just wanted to double tap
I'm a first-generation kid
what Mayor Scott said, because I think it's so important. And everybody who's run for office knows it is the most intrusive process that you will ever go through in your life. Like, if you have a secret, they are going to find it when you run for office. And so, you have no other way but to show up as your authentic self. And when I first ran for office, my slogan for my first state house campaign was, the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. And what I mean by that is the decisions that we make every single day in government disproportionately affect Black people, disproportionately affect brown people, disproportionately affect women, LGBTQ folks. And those ought to be the people who are sitting at the tables of power making those decisions every single day. To your question about the diversity in my ticket, so Pennsylvania, Governor Shapiro and I are very unique for a governor and lieutenant governor. I think Governor Shapiro is only the third Jewish governor we've ever had. I'm Pennsylvania's first Black lieutenant governor, and the youngest in the country. That certainly presents some opportunities, but certainly some challenges. And I think we saw those challenges laid very bare a few weeks ago when the governor's residence was attacked by an arsonist who tried to set his residence on fire while he and his family slept. But in all of my conversations with the governor, it's only deepened his resolve to do the work that we're doing every single day, to not let these forces win. The reality is, hate is having a moment right now. It is having a very real moment. but we let them win if we don't fight back. And I love the slogan for the conference, our future, our fight, because the decisions that we make, the fights that we take every single day right now in this moment are going to determine our country for decades and generations to come. And I know I'm not in Congress, and the Congresswoman is here, and I know there's a fight about what fights we should take on and what fights we shouldn't take on. I'm here to tell you, we should take on every goddamn fight. Every goddamn fight. When a bully shows up at school in your face every single day, you should kick his ass every single day. And we should keep fighting until we win.
So I love this question. I love this question, and I love that I'm sitting next to you all. First of all, this man was on the TV every single day for a good while last year, and seeing leadership from our family, literally a bridge collapse. We often talk about things falling down, but your bridge really fell down, and people died, and you did something extraordinary. You made the world look at your city with pride and love, and you were just so amazing. I'm so proud to know you. Just give me a little love. And it wasn't just a bridge. Really, what Baltimore represents really is a port of entry for so many goods for this country, and your city has been pathologized time and time and time again, and you made us as YEOers so proud. You made every mama and auntie proud. You made your partner proud and your children proud, and seeing us lead is just so extraordinary. I just will touch quickly on culture. My first YEO, I met Kevin, and I had known of Kevin before, and I remember one of your first keynote speeches that I've seen, you talked about the power of the drum, the sacredness of our heartbeat. You know, when I talk to people about being born into Islam, it's a choice. I had a grandmother who loved Jesus, and I had parents who took Shahada in the early 70s. Culture, God, power, music, it's who we are. The ways in which you pray, it makes you stronger. We talk about authenticity, be the fiber in your DNA. Culture is so important to standing up to your people who were not able to stand up. They didn't have the privilege. So me saying in committee, going back to that, how do we show up in places that are not made for us? You're not going to out-Bible me, because I was raised by my grandmother and I know Quran so well. And every month, and Sally is my communication director, she's like, okay, here she go, about to start quoting about. Yes, I am. And I'm going to give you John 10, verse 1 and 2 every damn day. Every day. Woe is those who create unjust policies, who make the widow poor, who forget the folks who have no shelter. I mean, be in your culture, how you were called to this table, the real why, how your grandmother prayed. We do not have to give up our faith, the love of who we are, our culture, the fact that we love this soil, and let the right take that on. No, we are people of deep, deep conscience. We are people of deep coil in hair. We are people of deep, deep prayer. We sing ourselves, literally, all of us collectively, out of our darkest days. Those were strategies that time and time again got us out of very, very hollow moments. Don't forget that. There is no reason, and I'm going to say it right, there is no reason for you to feel like you need to look, and talk like someone who has oppressed your father. You don't need to do that. Culture is who we are. It is the reason why you will stand after you get beat down, because people around you will play that drum, right? They will find a place under a tree to sit with you. Don't leave them. I think about this all the time. My grandmother, her name was Betty Simon. And what I am doing, would I make her proud, or would I have to over-explain? Would I make her proud, or well, Grandma, I took that money because, no, would I make her proud? Would I sing her songs? Would I study like her at night? My grandmother used to pray so loud with the doors closed. My sister Jamila and I would be like, is she fighting someone in there? Absolutely she was. She was fighting those demons the demons literally that enslaved our folks. And so culture is not just, it is not just social media. It's not just who we're listening to. It's by the ways in which we have come. Ryan Coogler is from my town. And what I love about Ryan is he is, for not one moment, capitulating. He is, again, now an international name, not in politics, but a culture maker. He's saying, I don't have to change the way that I talk. My brain is far more astute than those who criticize me. The stories of my people, he's been saying so clearly, are far more gracious than the folks who deem my downfall. Our culture, our song, our faith, it is who we are. How dare we seek to undermine it, to be in positions of power? We can not only be ourselves, we can be all of us together.
Thank you for that. I've been told to, I think we'll make this our last question. So I'll preface it with this. This is probably the most important one. We just completed 100 days, the first 100 days of the Trump
Feel like a
administration.
million.
100 years?
But here's what comforts me, because we're at 20 years. So this organization has lasted over 7,365 days. Partially because of its now intergenerational, interracial, everything, interdisciplinary nature within this organization. But it's also interesting being on this panel with the three of you, because you represent different levels of state and local government, federal government, legislative, executive branch. You're a liaison between all of them. I'm going to give you each 30 seconds, a congressional 30 seconds, so 2 minutes.
I promise. I promise.
To make your best pitch to this room about the one thing that you need their support on. This room has other members of Congress, other mayors. I don't think any other lieutenant governors, but future lieutenant governors, past lieutenant governors, funders, nonprofit executive leaders, people who came because they heard that something was happening at the Watergate. So tell us, what's the one thing?
I'll be quick, because I know, a congressional 5 minutes is a lot. It'll be like 50 years. Just please don't stop running. Please don't stop governing. Like, that's it. Wherever you are, take up as much space as you possibly can. Like physical space, spiritual space, mental space. Take up space and shout at the top of your legislative lungs that we belong here and that we will govern even in tyranny. Authoritarianism is here. It's here. So take up as much space as possible. That's what we need from one another now, that we are all here. We are pulling up our chairs to the table. We are governing, we are running, we are raising resources, and we are holding the line for the sisters and brothers and babies and siblings in our community. And we will not at all give up who we are. We won't give up who we are. We won't throw our trans brothers and sisters and siblings under the bus. We're not gonna stop talking about immigration and roads and a pathway to citizenship. We're not going to talk and criminalize people that we love so much. Keep holding that line, because that is the right side of not only history, it's the right side of now. Don't give that up.
Yeah. Just to build on that, I think don't stop standing up for us. I think in this moment, as like-minded elected officials, it's important that we stand together in solidarity. We know every single day in your respective communities, you are under attack by forces who don't want you to be there. And as you matriculate from the local level to state to federal, it is only going to get harder, and those forces are only going to be more pronounced. So never stop standing up for us, and never stop standing up for the values that you believe in.
Or federal down to local, which we see quite often. But Mayor, let's close this out.
I think so. The first thing is you got to continue to fight, and it's going to get harder, not easier. And I want all of us to level set ourselves in where we are. The more you fight, the more they're going to come for you. And what that means in this moment is that some of us are going to go to jail. Some of us might die. That's the moment that we're in. But if we don't, all the things that all those folks before us fought for and died for have been for naught. Continue to fight. But while you're fighting, build. Build the connections. Build the next wave of folks so that when you're done, the issue isn't over. It's passed on. Pass the baton now. Don't sit too long, and make sure that you coordinate in that fight, in that building, in every single thing that you do. Because the fight can't just be a one battle. It's going to be a war that lasts for many, 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 many years. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just quickly close by saying it's just such a reminder being here with all of you that being a young elected official is not a launch pad, but actually a legacy. And that journey in and of itself is enough. You all are enough. Thank you so much for being with us. And I think you have another panel coming up next.
Great dots, great dots.
Economic mobility and making sure that all of our families have an equal chance to succeed. I do what I can to champion issues that impact families like mine and to really ensure the American dream is an experience for everyone.
What issues that inspire me to run for office? Number one is crime. So our youth who are literally carrying around weapons. However, they're not necessarily addressing the root causes on why.
Black man get murdered.
I'm a first-generation kid who grew up working class, so I care deeply about economic mobility and making sure that all of our families have an equal chance to succeed. I do what I can to champion issues that impact families like mine and to really ensure the American dream is an experience for everyone.
What issues that inspire me to run for office? Number one is crime. So our youth who are literally carrying around weapons. However, they're not necessarily addressing the root causes on why they have to carry these weapons in the first place.
What inspired me to run for office was the murder of George Floyd, which happened in my district, and seeing a black man get murdered in the middle of daylight made me want to contribute to my community.
Far too long, we've been told to point fingers at one another, to blame one another, instead of working together. We all lose out as a society, we all lose out as a people. And so that's the reason why I ran for office in the first place, because I always believed that better was possible.
The Young Elected Officials Network is a source of support, it's a source of networking, and it's a support of ideation, where we get to come together as young elected officials from across the country to brainstorm, to share policy ideas, and to really try to solve some of our nation's and our local communities' most complicated challenges.
I can say that I've gotten a lot of ideas from folks that I've met at conferences, met at convening, and it's ultimately helped me become a better elected official, and I hope that so many others are able to share that same experience.
Joined here by an illustrious panel of folks who will introduce themselves similar to the first panel, going to prompt the first question and then, of course, allow you to introduce yourselves also in the midst of answering that question. So we heard a lot about being a blue dot. We've all been blue dots at some point, our first convening. And so the question for the panel is, for the 3-4 days that make up a convening, going back to that point, and I want you to shout out your year, by the way. Yes, we're all dating ourselves on this one. So go to your blue dot year, right? Go to your blue dot year. What were your expectations going in? And what benefits did you receive coming out of that first convening? And why is that important to you still? So.
Hamnakapi Maka Ikiwi Ahime Chante Washte Nape Tuzapilo. That's our traditional greeting, Lakota. I shake your hands with a warm and good heart. My Lakota name is Close to Earth. English name is Kevin Killer. So I was a blue dot in 2009, and I just got elected to the South Dakota State House of Representatives. And at the time, at the time, I was the youngest, and still is the youngest Native ever elected in the history of South Dakota. So it was a really unique experience. But I kind of had to cheat, actually, because before that, I was part of PFA, and as that's Renee was mentioning, I was part of YP4, but from YP4, I had some amazing mentors through the Frontline Leaders Academy, which was, I met some amazing people there, including Peggy Flanagan, yep, in 2006, and Peggy's actually a YEO as well. She's Ojibwe. She's Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota. She got elected to the Minneapolis School Board in 2006. So she was one of my trainers, Julian Castro, Andrew, Alicia Thomas. I mean, they got me ready to run for office, but part of that was they would invite us to YEO in 2007, 2000. So I got kind of I knew what to kind of get out of it. But I think one of the things that really impressed me was this understanding the depth and relationships that you're going to build, because a lot of this you're doing for your communities, and a lot of this you're doing it because of the visions that you're kind of carrying out. And also part of it is just making sure that you're leaving a lasting impact, because somebody prayed for you to be in this room, whether you believe that or not. That's really what I begin to learn more and more as I've been in office and in public service and all this. And it's because of those prayers that our ancestors kind of did. And they pray for us to make these connection points, or whether it's an energy or something like that. I don't know what you'd call it. At least with us and our belief, it's a prayer. And whenever that prayer goes up, then at some point you're going to meet, and have these people in your lives, the rest of your lives, and take advantage of that. It's up to you how you want to use it. But it's a really good way and a good connection. So I think for me, that was probably just meeting those initial people and just having like a really, really good time. And I don't remember where we're at, but I think we're in DC or so. Maybe Atlanta, I think that's where we're at. So yeah, I can't remember, but yeah, so that's it.
Yeah.
We were debating who the oldest one on the stage was, but I'm a proud gray dot. My name is Jane Kim, also from the state of California with our Congresswoman. And I thought my first YEO was 2008, but it had to have been 2009 because I thought that was, we joined the same year. We didn't even have blue dots then. Like, I don't know what that is. But I'm a proud gray dot. I ran for the school board in the city and county of San Francisco in my mid-20s as a youth organizer when Latifah Simon was executive director of Center for Young Women's Development, and then went on to serve on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and now serve as the California director of Working Families Party. And I know I'm on the panel of what happens after office, and yes, I can confirm I finally have time to work out. It's great. But I also loved being in office. And the one thing I will say is, like many folks that ran, and there were very few programs when I ran for office. I don't think Emerge had started yet. There wasn't like these things that helped you. I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew how to door knock because I had done that as an organizer in Chinatown. But I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I wasn't even a registered Democrat. I didn't understand labor at the time. I just kind of jumped in the cold water, had no idea what I was doing. And actually, I'm really glad it happened that way. I also never worked for an elected because honestly, there's no way I would have run if I had known what it was going to be like. There is no way I would have run if I had known what it was going to be like. So it is much better to go in naive because it was, as many of you already know, it's the greatest highs and the lowest lows when you run. And no one can really prepare you for what that's going to be like. I cried almost every single day. And I didn't know how vulnerable I would feel. And this was kind of before social media was really, really a thing. And so when YEO called me, I just wasn't I had never heard of it. I'm not going to go out to some city. So I actually didn't go the first time. I really regret that. But they kept calling. Andrew kept calling and saying, you got to come out. And so finally I was like, all right, I'll go. Because my impression of conferences was, you don't really learn a lot when you go. And so what I was surprised about when I got here was actually how much I did learn about how to govern. When you run for office, a lot of people do help you. That's how you win. You don't win by yourself. A lot of folks come together and they invest in you because they believe in your service and your leadership for your community. But once you win, kind of people everyone goes away and they're like, all right, we did our work. Now you go save our city and our community. And it's not like just because we run, we suddenly know how to govern. And I remember actually, because I lost the first time I ran and I slept really well. When I won 2 years later, and I came in first place out of 15 candidates, and I was 20 years younger than anyone else that was running, I stopped being able to sleep. Because then I realized what I'd actually signed up for. And I was just like, who am I to say that I have the solution to decades of challenges facing our public school system? I could no longer be the person at public comment demanding the school board to reduce violence in our neighborhoods or to lower the suspension and expulsion rate and increase the graduation rate. Now that was on me. And I didn't have a whole lot of support. And YEO came in and they provided so much support for all of us. And they introduced me to folks around the country, because often when you're a young elected, although I think that has changed a lot in the last 20 years, thanks to YEO and many other institutions, you're often the only young person on your council and your board, and by 20 years, right? And so I didn't have a lot of peers. So when I got here and I met folks from around the country, when I met Rashida Tlaib, who was then a Michigan state rep, when I met Andrew Gillum, who was on the Tallahassee City Council at the time, I was struck by how many young people did take that step. And then they were diverse. They were people of color. They were from immigrant communities. And they had a different upbringing than many of my colleagues that I saw. And so, one, it gave me support and community. Kevin Killer became one of my best friends because we met at that first YEO. And so we could message one another and talk about how hard things were. But also, it gave me the skill set of how to govern. One of the things that I do remember at one of the YEO academies that was really helpful for me is that HR is policy. And I was on the school board at the time. We got to hire a superintendent and we got to hire other senior deputies. And I learned that more than any policy that you can pass, it's important who you hire to implement and execute it. And YEO taught me that. So that is why I am so invested in this network. There are very few networks I'm invested in. And as an elected, we're also busy. I didn't go to any other conferences. This was the only one I made time for every year.
Well, I'm Melvin Carter. I'm the mayor of St. Paul, Minnesota. And, thank you. And I'm officially the old head on here. My first year was 2008. I got elected to the city council in St. Paul in 2007. Rewind, almost 10 years before that. And me and Andrew were classmates at FAMU, kind of just hanging out and talking about the way the world should be. And so I came into a space where I started doing community organizing. I was one of those people who loved it when Barack Obama ran for office, because all of a sudden my family members thought being a community organizer was cool. And they had a sense what it was. And so I was one of the early trainers for YP4. I was one of the early trainers for some of those programs. So when I ran for office, I already knew what YEO was. So I knew when I was running for office that I was running to be a member of the YEO network, and was excited to be able to come and join this network. And I think one of the biggest things that I get, being an elected official is an isolating experience. Y'all know that. Being mayor, one of the things I didn't realize about being mayor is when I got elected, my name became mayor. And so it's not just a job, it's an identity. It's a new identity. And then on top of that, when you say I'm the first woman, or I'm the first LGBT, I'm the youngest person, I'm the first person of color, we're taking an isolating experience and then taking it to the nth degree. And so for me, I ran on just kind of the progressive urban. Listen, let me see. 2008, February 2008, my first controversial vote on the city council ever was on whether every police officer should have a taser or not, right? And I remember sitting in this room and I'm like stonewalling this public hearing, and there's like 200 people waiting to go on. And I'm sitting there feeling like I'm by myself. Like I know I'm going to lose the vote, but I felt like we got to have a real conversation about this. And I'm having this conversation, and I'm pushing the chief, and I'm pushing the training sergeant. We're having this crazy, and we're bringing out a lot of really important stuff. But there's like all these people in the room. I felt like super small, and I felt super alone. And I got to a point in this conversation where I remember feeling like, man, just like, shut up, like, kill it. And like, it's like, you lost, like, move on. And I kid you not, room of 200 people. I turn around and look behind me, and right sitting behind me in the front row were 4 Black women from the area I represented. And I turned around and looked at them, I kid you not, and they went. And it was like that scene in the Popeye cartoon, right? Like where they eat the spinach and you're back up and ready to go. And so all that to say is, I remember feeling I'm the same as you. I remember feeling every single year I would get off the plane for YEO and feel like I'm like crawling to the oasis for water, right? And feel like I have people here. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not by myself here. I'm like, there's real people here who are doing just dope stuff all over the country. There are people, Brandon Mayor Scott wasn't playing when he said, like, every mayor has their thing, right? I'm the public safety mayor. I'm the, economics mayor. I'm the green mayor. I always tell them I'm the stealing mayor. Nobody has more active Google alerts on all of y'all. And I have some of my best ideas like 30 seconds after some elected official who I met in YEO said a thing or had a press conference. And I look and I say, oh yeah, we're gonna do that too. And so that network is critical. But at some point, I think one of the most radically selfless things you can do, only for those of you who are doing important work, one of the most radically selfless things you can do is invest in yourself for your own capacity to continue doing the important work that you do. And that's like YEO became a centerpiece for how I did that as a young elected official.
Definitely appreciate that. It's rare I get to be a newbie because my first convening was 2010. So y'all are the old heads on this one. And I get to be the young buck. No. So yeah, but my takeaway was similar to what you all shared, like stepping into a space, the average age of the state legislature when I was there, and I was elected at 31, average age was 45, right? So you're walking in like, imposter syndrome, you don't know what to do, all the things. So walking into that, DC hotel and seeing cats that were younger than you, that had been serving for multiple terms, and being your age gave you a sense of confidence. And to your point, Mayor, we became the best thieves of great ideas because it was in those convenings where someone would conjure a thing and be like, well, this passed in Hawaii. And I'm like, Hawaii's not Florida, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna give it a shot. And so that was an amazing thing. And the network is responsible for that. So kind of in that same vein, right? We all served in the network. We were all here. We've gone on to other things. Some stayed and elected, some stepped out, etc. Kind of one of the questions that was prompted to me was like, what advice would you give to YEO or newer YEO? But I would like for each of you to answer it in the prism of what advice would you give yourself as a YEO coming into this that you've learned having gone through the journey that you have? So what, if you could talk to your younger self, what would be the advice that you would give, given all that you've had a chance to experience? Easy stuff.
I can start. Y'all know who Keith Ellison is? He's the Attorney General of Minnesota. And he's been a mentor of mine for a really long time. And back when he was in the State House, and I remember I was thinking about running for office, he gave me a homework assignment one time. He said, look up all of the lobbyists, registered lobbyists in the state of Minnesota under the letter Q, right? And I looked at him like, that's a long list. He's like, okay, that's just the letter Q. He was like, listen, when I get out my car at the Capitol, they're waiting for me. When I walk to my car to the door, they're waiting for me. I get on the elevator and I get to my office, somebody's in and somebody's waiting outside the door to walk me to the committee. They're all over the place. And he's like, in this work, the only way for you to stay like actively connected to the people who you ran to like to represent is to like be aggressive about it. Is to be super intentional about it and to like intentionally like always baptize yourself in the people who you represent, the people who you're here for. Because otherwise, all of these other folks, and whether it's registered lobbyists or whether it's other people, like I don't care what building your government building is, whether it's City Hall or the Capitol or what or the US Capitol, those buildings are really good at masquerading as the center of the universe, but they're not. They're not. And so to me, the biggest advice I would give you, and we're really excited about the work that we're doing in St. Paul right now. We try to literally bathe everything we do in public engagement, from building a budget to every member of my cabinet, like literally every single member of my cabinet who I was ever appointed has been interviewed by neighbors, right? And city community members and young people, or just people who are on these committees. Because the biggest piece of advice for me, and one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, is like be super intentional about bathing yourself in those community members, and with the understanding that every grandma you meet, every fifth grader you meet, like every person you come in contact with when you just hang out in the community that you represent is a subject matter expert in American life, is a subject matter expert on your schools, is a subject matter expert on all of those things. You know what I'm saying? Like young Brandon Scott was a subject matter expert on gun violence in this community. You know what I mean? And we ignore that wisdom at our own peril.
I think, the thing that I'd probably tell myself, and just, reflecting back on that, and Senator, that's a really good question. Like, I just think about some of the most trying times that I've had in office, and as Mayor Carter was mentioning, is understanding that you're only one person, and it's so important to take care of yourself, and you're going to lose people, and I think that's probably one of the toughest things, because you lose people that really believe in you, and it does have an impact on the way that you lead, the way that you show up, the way that you do that, and take that time, because nobody else is going to tell you to take that time, and actually I'm off to LA to go work with to go see a friend, who's he just lost his mom, and but it's just showing up for people like that, because I lost my mom, I think, a week before the election in 2014. And, and her last vote was for me, and everybody on the ballot, all that kind of stuff. But, you think about stuff like that, and it's, and it leaves an impact, and it is going to impact the way you lead. It's going to do things, you're going to do things differently after that, but also take that time to mourn, because again, all these people that believe in you, they believe in you for certain reasons, and, honor their memory, honor their legacy, why they supported you, So again, I think I would probably leave it with that.
It's hard for me to think of one thing, in a lot of ways, because I feel like I had to go through it to learn it, and I'm not sure how helpful it would have been for me to hear it. But I will say, like, when you are in office, have a good group of friends and family that you constantly go back to. The colleagues that I saw that lost their way the most were the ones that became too busy for their friends and their family outside of their political community. And, find folks that share your values, your principle, your true north, and that aren't afraid of you. I hired a whole staff when I was on the Board of Supervisors of women of color that were not scared of me. And that was very, very, very important. When I was running for office, because I always did not think highly of elected officials, I kind of thought that something would happen when I was in office where I would become moderated or centrist or sell out my community, because I was the example of what I'd seen before, right? I'd seen folks that had come from the community and run for office and then disappoint us. And what actually surprised me the most about running for office, and I think, what the mayor said about being grounded in your community is so important. What surprised me about being in office was that actually being in office made me more radical, because once I saw how the system really worked from the inside, it wasn't theoretical anymore. It actually just made me want to fight even more. Things that were theoretical concepts to me, like reparations or, no one should own land. You know, all these things that I would kind of say, like once I saw like how it actually worked, like that was what actually radicalized me even more. Like when I served on a city council, which is what the board of supervisors was partially, I mean, I realized then that I was like a wealth asset manager. I was determining the wealth and value of land, right, for private owners, landowners. That is such a powerful thing that we do on behalf of our communities when we zone our cities to be healthy and equitable for our communities. So where do we put our parks? Where do we put our offices? But where do we also put industrial so we know that we have different types of jobs, right, for our communities? Where do we put, you know, our hotels, which is another type of economy, and where do we put, you know, our homes, and how much homes, density, and all of that, and affordability, and how much, you know, can they build, and who do they build for? Like these are all decisions that we can actually make. And the thing that I see happen over and over again for young people, for people of color, for women, for LGBT folks, is that when they come into office, they are told that they cannot do that. They are constantly told that they cannot do that. And I see people cower and not fight as hard and even tell me, oh, but I can't do that. Our city attorney told me that I can't, the developer told me I can't do that. And we have the same seat that traditionally straight white men have held for hundreds of years. And it's important for us to hold that power. Our ancestors fought for us to be here. You know, and so every time you come to that dais or to that table to vote, like remember how we got here and to exercise that power for our communities.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing I would add is that I went from the classroom into the state legislature. And I went to your point around that theoretical idea. So I think I was too hopeful for too long. And then once I realized that, you know, these folks were on some BS, you activated the boldness. So the advice I would definitely give myself is to be bolder sooner. Like, you know, follow your instincts in the sense that what made you run was you wanting to be a problem solver. So don't go in passive, like, okay, maybe someone else has the better answer. No, jump in there and be like, let me swing for a couple home runs. Sometimes you strike out, sometimes you go over the fence, and that's something that I would have definitely done sooner, be bolder sooner. So our last question, and we'll shut it down with this, but you know, I've had a number of epiphanies now being over 40. One of my epiphanies a little while ago was realizing that I was the same age that my dad was when he said this thing to me, and like now I get it. And I remember my dad telling me as a kid, like, oh, youth is wasted on the young. And I'll be like, you know, you young, like, whatever. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Then like you get to his age and you're like, got it. And not in some dismissive way, but in the sense that you've acquired these things, you've lived your life, and now you might not be in the position you were 20 years ago or 15 years ago when you were a young, hungry elected official, right? And so I guess my question for you all, because I'd like to assume we've all been in a position where there was someone gatekeeping a position, gatekeeping resources. You know, we talked about the average age and how older folks were. And so we'd all, you know, we're coming in, we're energetic, we're younger, and we're trying to break through the gate. But then we also have to go through the mental gymnastics of not becoming the gatekeeper ourselves, right? So my question in that is, why is youth, young people running, young people taking up space, young people being in office important? Full stop.
I think, and Senator, thank you for that question. And I think it was maybe like being in office in South Dakota for like 10 years, I reached that point where I was like, okay, well, like, do I take a break? And my partner, Sarah, who's amazing in her own right, we were just visiting and she was really stressing and emphasizing to me that, well, what is the impact that you're going to make? What have you done in those 10 years and what are you going to do? And I was like, yeah, that is a good point because there's only so much you can do as, Senator, you're saying, like gatekeeping, especially in a state that's naturally conservative and tend to be pretty progressive. But one of the things that, that I figured out, and as you said, you want to leave a place better than you find it, and how you transition out is really important as well. Because I lost too, also, but I also, you can choose to go out on your own terms. And when I was in the legislature leaving, I served 8 years termed and then 2 years in the Senate. And then I was just like, oh, after 10 years, okay, I'm ready to kind of move on to the next thing. And, but what I really wanted to do is that, we only had like maybe, I think only one Native woman ever in the history of our legislature that served, and she was a state senator. And so I asked some of my female colleagues to run. And, we've got both a state rep, a female state rep, and also a female state senator elected to kind of help fill those seats and leaving that legacy of like, we need to just think from those terms, think generationally, and just understand that, things come later on down the line, because I didn't really anticipate running for president, but it just happened, so you're going to be called back into service. And that's the one thing that, as YEOs, as you transition into great odds and you think your term's done, that's what they always say in my community, once a leader, always a leader. And senator can tell you that, supervisor can tell you that, mayor can tell you that. People are always going to elect you as a leader, and you're always going to be of service, and just stay true to yourself. I think that's the biggest thing, is just understanding that, this is the legacy that you can leave for others. So, that was my.
I'm going to let the mayor close us out. Oh. I'm going to let the mayor close us out. It's not limited to young people, but generally what I've seen is that young people bring an energy and a vibe and also a ton of curiosity to the table, which I think is incredibly important in an institution that has always run a certain way, right? And so I think that is very important to do, especially in this time right now. We are in uncharted territory. Nobody knows how to, like when the election happened, I kept waiting for the plan B. And then I realized there was only ever a plan A, that we win the election. And so like nobody has the answer. So we have to be the answer. And as young folks who don't know how things have always been done, I think it's important to be curious and to kind of set a different stage. And why age isn't always the one that matters in terms of breaking institutions. We have some of our oldest electeds, like a Trump and a Bernie Sanders, that have been breaking tradition and breaking institutions. But generally, it is young folks that do that. And Mayor Scott talked about even how dressing different is an important cue. Right? Visual is all very important to the public in terms of how you are leading differently. And I think this country, part of the reason why we are where we are at, I mean, there are many, many reasons leading up to this moment in time, is that people are tired. They are tired of institutions that they feel like have not served them. They're tired of the same old, same old. So it's important as young leaders to present a different vision of how government can be run. Because the one thing that also surprised me is I left 12 years of office believing in government as an institution more than ever. Not that it's always done well, or that it's been done right, or it's done our communities right, but that it has this potential that if there is no governance, who wins? The billionaires, the bullies, the people with the most power. It's not our communities. And so government can be this institution that can be, that can build this healthy and beautiful and more equitable community. And we have to make that happen. And I think as young leaders, we can break with the past and put forward a different vision.
So right after I got elected mayor, somebody asked me one of the most important questions I've ever been asked in my life. We were in the mayor's office right before I got sworn in, and a mentor of mine asked, "Are you going to move the furniture in the mayor's office?" That's the question. And it blew my mind because I'm a relatively smart person who considers myself a disruptor, a change agent, and it hadn't occurred to me that as the sitting mayor of the city that I'm born and raised in, it was within my power to move the damn desk. The reason it hadn't occurred to me is because I've been around City Hall for 20 years and I've always seen the desk in the same place. And it's incredible. And that story is such a reminder to me of how we can accidentally become the enforcers of the exact status quo that we decide we put ourselves in office to change in the first place. And so here I am a couple of years later, and we've in St. Paul initiated college savings accounts. We start every child born in our city with $50 in a college savings account. We've raised the minimum wage. We've piloted guaranteed income. We've launched this national guaranteed income movement that since the onset of the pandemic has done 72 pilots that's distributed over $350 million in unconditional cash transfers to low-income Americans. We've gotten a chance to just do amazing things for people. And one of the things that I'm reminding my team right now is the most perilous moment for everything I'm most proud of to brag on of what we've done in the city. Let me tell you, it is May, and the city of St. Paul has not experienced a gun shooting homicide in 2025. And that's years of work to put into that. But I'm just saying, all the most perilous moment that everything I'm proudest of, that everything I love bragging on about our work has in common, the most perilous moment wasn't something that some conservative said. It wasn't some op-ed. It wasn't a city council vote. It was the moment in which it came up in my mind and it felt impossible. You hear what I said? The most dangerous moment that could have killed literally every single thing that I'm proudest of is the moment where just inside my mind, it was like, nah, we can't do that. And so with youth comes, I think, like three things. With youth comes energy. It has to come energy. I knew when I got elected at 27 that there were folks in the building with longer resumes than mine. I decided they're just not going to have more shoe leather to burn than I did, right? With youth comes impatience. There's got to be a youthful impatience. But I think most importantly, with youth comes this disallegiance to the status quo. And again, allegiance to the status quo can sometimes be purposeful and it can sometimes be accidental. But I feel like I'm developing a theory that the real fight isn't really between the right and the left. The real fight is between people who feel like, nah, we're actually okay right here, and those of us who want to move somewhere. And so we gotta be able to fight. We gotta be able to push. Young people can be able to infuse that in a way that nobody ever does. Go find an era of world history where the world has changed for the better without young people. I don't think you will. But the last thing I want to say is this: like, fight has been a theme on this stage. We have to decide how we fight. And one of the things that makes me sad right now, I'll tell you, is the anger centricity that people who I'm used to showing up with love and joy are experiencing right now. And so as we think about the stubbornness that youth allows, one of my challenges, and one of the reasons I've always loved YEO, is because no matter what, for 20 years, this has been an organization and a network that is rooted in the joy of what love enacted in policy can do for people. And so my challenge is, when we fight, don't get tricked into getting locked into a fight against them. Like, you ran for office because somebody was important to you. You ran for office because some community was important to you. You ran for office because some issue was important to you. And the more you get wrapped up, tangled up in horns with fighting against a person, the less time you have to spend fighting against gun violence, or fighting for your community, or fighting for those children, or fighting for the people that you love. You follow what I'm saying? So that's my challenge to you: is use that energy that you have, and use that impatience that you have, and use that stubbornness that you bring, and use that disallegiance from the status quo that you bring to actually move us toward a different fight, not to like get us mired further in to the fight that we're in. You know that saying, you know why you don't wrestle with a pig, right? Because we all get dirty, but the pig likes it. Don't make them happy.
Listen, no greater words to end on. One thing I would lift up, we talk about YEO, we always say YEO, but the part we missed is the network. This is an opportunity for you to meet change makers, other folks. I'm oftentimes inspired that I got a chance to know these people. When I did, that I saw the human in them, their flaws, their favor, and everything in between. And that I've been able to see them excel, grow, move, shift, and do great things irrespective of where we live and our geography. And that's the beauty of a network, is the ability to go into another space, know that you know somebody there, and know that they are making good things happen. You know, some of my greatest friends, and I call them that, came out of this network. So do not lose sight of what you're going to experience over the next couple of days in terms of building community with folks that are actively trying to change the world for the better. So thank you all for listening to us.
Let's give another round of applause for our incredible panelists and our moderator, Senator Dwight Butler. Let's give them a round of applause as they take a photo. Somebody turn to your neighbor and say, neighbor, I got your back. And somebody turn to your other neighbor and say, neighbor, I got your back. That's what the network is all about. Hey, now, hey, all right. Y'all don't get me started now. Before we close and let y'all get to the first night of an incredible celebration, real quick, y'all, real quick, before we end for the evening and before we give you the first night of an incredible celebration, again, we want to thank our incredible panelists, and we want to thank all of you. We are running slightly over time because politicians love to talk, but we would be remiss if we didn't take the time to award the first of 4 awards that we will be awarding to young elected leaders over the weekend to recognize them for their contribution both to the YEO network and to the broader progressive movement. The first award that we'll be presenting this evening is actually an awardee that you all chose, which is the Barbara Jordan Leadership Award. So as you all know, Barbara Jordan is a co-founder of People for the American Way. She was an incredible, trailblazing congresswoman from the great state of Texas. She was the first Black female speaker of the Democratic National Convention. She was a powerhouse, and her legacy still impacts not only People for the American Way, the Young Elected Officials Network, but the work of so many of our leaders. And so every year we take the time to recognize in her honor a young elected leader who is carrying her legacy forward. This year and every year, People for staff, alumni, nominate a group of nominees who we believe embody that vision of one of our co-founders. And then we leave the final decision up to you, the members of the Young Elected Officials Network, to choose the final winner. But I do want to say, before I have our Congresswoman Latifah Simon come up and introduce the winner of the Barbara Jordan Leadership Award, I want to recognize all of the nominees, because none of the nominees were selected in vain. We selected every nominee because of their incredible contribution to the progressive movement, their incredible contribution to the YEO network, their incredible contribution to their local communities, and to making our nation freer and fairer for all of us. And so just want to recognize all of our Barbara Jordan Award nominees. Clayton County School Board member Jasmine Bowles from the great state of Georgia. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley from the great state of Wisconsin. State Representative Malcolm Kenyatta from the great state of Pennsylvania. United States Representative Sarah McBride from the great state of Delaware. And Vice Mayor of Coral Springs, Florida, Nancy Mateo Bowen. Let's give all of our nominees an incredible round of applause. And so without further ado, before we close our program, please welcome again to the stage Congresswoman Latifah Simon, another trailblazing Black woman in the Congress.
You know what, Bay Area we are representing. You guys, YEO is just so special. Blue Dots, you are going to have so much fun. Like, I think I am still hungover from Miami, which was like 6 years ago. Miami hit so hard. I mean, we are not able to, so, like, no one take this. We're not able to really just be who we talk about authenticity. That's one thing. Don't give away your grandmother's prayers, but you can't get low in your town. You cannot go out on a Friday night and just get it and have so much fun. This is family. This is a family reunion. There will be line dancing. There will be boots on the ground. There will be lots of tequila. We'll pray in the morning, but have fun, be together, be young again. It is almost, I mean, honestly, it's almost impossible, because when you do get home, you have to literally shine your shoes, you hear me, and be creased up. And our folks expect us to be damn near perfect. And it's almost impossible. YEO is a family reunion of really just being. And, you know, with that said, I'm so honored that I get to, you know, envelope, please, on the Barbara Jordan Award. Barbara Jordan, homework, watch Miss Jordan's floor speeches, right? I watched some of them last night. Understanding, you know, when these sisters and brothers walk into the Capitol, I mean, Mr. Jeffrey says it every day. When you walk into the Capitol, you are walking into the Coliseum. And that's now, where the Congressional Black Caucus is strong, where there's an equality caucus of LGBTQ folks and allies, and it's strong. The Latino caucus is strong. Women's caucus is strong. Imagine being the first and the only, and people don't believe that you deserve to be there. And that you know that your great uncle was a bricklayer who laid bricks outside and built that Capitol. You know that. You know that the people who literally clean up after folks come from your lineage, and folks don't even look them in the face every day. You know what you're coming to do. Barbara Jordan was that woman. She was that woman. So when I heard who, again, there's no way this award, I mean, everyone in this room deserves it, because we're doing very dangerous work in this moment. But I get to work with a sister who is so uniquely brilliant. Every day there are threats on her life, but she walks into that Coliseum with such clarity of why she is there, to be a deep champion for the American people. She is a sister. She is a wonderful legislator, a caring and thoughtful and learned and kind woman. I'm so proud that this year you all collectively have voted for Sarah McBride. And I gotta tell you, in this time, I mean, I was in orientation and I met Sarah. You know, we win our election 4 days after we win. I mean, my votes weren't even counted. They were like, Simon, we'll buy your ticket too. We don't know, Alameda County's so slow, if you actually really won. So you might be on your own coming back, but I won. But I met Sarah in person and I had been seeing her campaign. And during that 2 weeks of orientation, Speaker Johnson and Nancy Mace, I have never seen the cruelty of people up close in this way. My mother's from Arkansas, I'm from California. I've never seen the destructive cruelty of real people who say that they follow a Lord of kindness. They moved forth a policy that was so ridiculous in nature, targeted at my sister. And every single day in orientation, she walked into that Capitol with her head held high, so clear about her purpose. And it was not only as a transgender woman, but as somebody who was elected to serve the good people of her state. I love her dearly. I love her dearly. And what we all represent in our Barbara Jordan isms is, I believe, what Sarah exudes every single day. People will threaten your life, your very being, your why, your purpose, but the assignment is what is to be done. I hope you get to meet and share and break bread with Sarah. I love her, and I'm so proud to serve with her, because one of the things that I know, and the mayor said it earlier, leading in this moment is dangerous work. Leading in this moment is crazy work. You literally have to have an assignment that was given to you by something greater than this. And she has it. And she is there not only to work and lead, but she is there to be a compadre. She is there literally to be an ally to every person she meets. And I say that with all of my heart. The Barbara Jordan Leadership Award goes to Sarah McBride. I think we have a video.
Hi, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Sarah McBride, and I want to begin by saying how sorry I am that I can't be with you in person tonight. It's always a joy to be in community with fellow young electeds, especially at a moment like this. But I am incredibly honored to accept the 2025 Barbara Jordan Leadership Award. Barbara Jordan was a trailblazer, a woman whose courage, clarity, and commitment to justice shaped the soul of our democracy. To be recognized in her name by an organization that's investing in the next generation of values-driven leadership is deeply humbling. As young elected officials, we stepped into public service not just to play it safe, but to fight for what matters. We know that representation is powerful, but results are essential. And in this moment, when democracy is being tested, when freedom is under attack, and when millions of people are wondering whether their government still sees them, our leadership matters more now than ever. The Trump administration has made it clear that it will stop at nothing to roll back our rights, undermine our democracy, and target the very communities many of us come from and fight for. From attacks on reproductive freedom and LGBTQ dignity to threats against public education and our most vulnerable neighbors, the stakes couldn't be higher. And I know that this moment feels different than it did 10, 15, 20 years ago, when it felt like if we simply worked for it, if we volunteered, voted, spoke out, that change was inevitable, that we could inevitably bend the arc of the moral universe toward justice with hard work. It doesn't feel that way anymore. We can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know that if we do all the things we think we're supposed to do, that change will come. But as I join you from the House of Representatives, as I go into that chamber, which was built just before the Civil War, as I join my colleagues on the floor of the House of Representatives, where they passed the 13th Amendment and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, where women secured the right to vote, where the New Deal was passed, where Medicare and Medicaid were created, where lawmakers voted to pass the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Act, I'm reminded we are sitting in the chairs where change once felt impossible until it wasn't. And as we step into the shoes not only of our predecessors, but of the advocates, activists, and everyday Americans who fought for that change, for that seemingly impossible change, when we step out of the hindsight of history that treats progress as inevitable, you realize that in this moment, something is true. That we still have reason for hope. You cannot tell me that the reasons for hopelessness now are greater than the reasons for hopelessness at any point in our country's history. An enslaved person in the 1850s had no reason to believe that an Emancipation Proclamation was on the horizon. Unemployed workers in the early days of the Great Depression had never heard of the New Deal. Patrons at the Stonewall Inn had no reason to believe that they could live in an America where they could live openly and authentically without violating the law. They didn't know change would come. They couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But they persevered. They summoned their hope. They found the light and they changed the world. And I believe that if we persevere, in this moment, if we summon our hope, then we will too find the light. And we will turn this moment, this time, into what a friend from Florida once called a slingshot moment. Where yes, we are pulled backward, but the pressure and tension of being pulled backwards ultimately propels us to destinations that we've not yet been. Hope isn't a passive feeling. It's a decision we make every single day to keep showing up, to keep speaking out, and to keep building a future rooted in justice, just like Barbara Jordan did. That's why the work of this network is so important. Together we're defending democracy, advancing equality, and proving that a politics of compassion and courage can still win, that our politics can still work. To my fellow young elected officials, thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and most importantly, your relentless hope. To the team at People for the American Way, thank you for lifting up our voices and for believing in what we can build together. Let's keep going. We're in this together.
Begins tomorrow at 9 a.m., but the party starts now. Thank you all so much. Good evening, and we'll see you in the morning.
Thank you.